Okay, we're going to learn a little bit about images now. Actually, you should have learned a lot about images already through your reading. This is not a graphics arts class or photography class, so we don't spend as much time on images and creating images and editing images as you might in other classes. Those are fantastic things to learn, and there's lots of online resources too. I strongly encourage you to think about doing some of that work on your own. So the basics that we need to know about images are that what we call the basic web formats. A JPEG could be JPG or JPEG, usually JPG. We pronounce it JPEG. What's a JPEG good for? It's almost always photographs. The idea behind JPEGs is they are some of the larger images we use, but they have to be because they have a lot of gradations in color, or even in black and white. It's a lot of gradations. They're not big single chunks of color. They don't usually use transparency either. So they're almost always photographs, or things that are like photographs. And if you have an image that is like a photograph, it almost certainly should be used as a JPEG. GIF, GIF, and PNG, we actually say the letters, so GIF and PNG, are two other web image formats. We use those for things that have large chunks of solid colors, such as logos. That's one of the most common use. Banners, advertisements often are. Now, why would you use one as opposed to the other? Well, you would certainly use a GIF. Another use for it is for animation. What do I mean by animation? You've seen GIFs around. Here's one. Cat gets freaked out by clothespin. I love this one. Let's watch this. I hope this comes through okay in the video. And it's taking a while to load. Sorry about that. I'm afraid with everything I've opened, it's a little bit jerky. Remember, you can always use the link and go yourself to this file by going to the PDF of this presentation, which is also available on Moodle. But they're like multi-frame animation-like photographs, really. And there's lots of instructions online for making them if you want to make your own, and sites that will do a lot of the work for you. And Photoshop will make GIFs. Frankly, they're becoming a little less popular these days, and I do not think you need one on your resume site for sure. They're kind of goofy. Okay, but the real use for GIFs and PNGs is for transparency, plus solid colors, and small file sizes. If you have to have multiple levels of transparency, let's say you have transparency around the edges of something, plus you have a drop shadow, for instance, or similar kind of outlining, multiple levels of transparency, then you have to use a PNG. The reason that you might want to get away with using a GIF and use only one level of transparency or no transparency is that GIFs are really small files. But those are the reasons for using these files. And here's a table that you should have seen already and read about, more detail about these file formats and how they work. You should know this stuff for future quizzes. Okay, how do we use an image? Well, you've already used them a number of times. IMG, SRC. SRC means source. It doesn't just mean the file name, it means the file name and the path, relative paths. You should know about those now. And alt text. Remember what alt text is for? It's for the visually impaired, people who turn off images, in case when maybe the image is not available. They at least get the alt text. And for search engine optimization, SEO. You can include, and may very well, in some assignments, be asked to include the width and the height in your image statement, image element. So this says use PSU PNG, and here's the alt text for it, good. And it says it's a width of 250 and a height of 66. 250 what? 66 what? That's always in pixels. What's a pixel? More in just a minute. Frankly, we don't set image size as much in HTML as we used to. We can set image size in CSS. You don't have to use image size at all, though. and the image will be displayed at the size it is supposed to be. In fact, these numbers should be the actual numbers that are used, that the file is, that this actual size of the image. You never use these numbers, be they in HTML or in CSS, to resize an image. That would be a poor choice. The idea is you would never use a much bigger image and then size it the size you want to in HTML. We always want our images sized the real size we're going to use them, because we don't want to have to carry any extra size, any extra file size or resolution onto the website. We want the images to be small and fast, or no bigger than necessary anyway. So we don't use them that way. Okay, more on images. Images are inline elements. They must go inside a block element. Frankly, this rule is sometimes violated. Of all the inline elements, images are the one which is most likely not to be used properly inside a block element, like inside a paragraph. But let's try to stick to that rule. Images can be links. You've already seen that. And how do you find the image size of any image that's online? Well, let's use an example. Let's go to the SUNY Plattsburgh website. Okay, good. Here we are. Hey, there's an image. It's someone proudly holding their diploma holder. There's no diploma in there yet. I know that. Okay, so do a right click on any image on any website and say, different browsers will have different choices, but you want to open the image in a new tab. What's happened? Well, there's a new tab. Well, it's just the image. Is that very helpful? You might think not, except when you hover over, as I am up in your upper right hand corner there, you hover over the tab, it will tell you about the name of that image, which might be interesting to you, and it will give you some numbers. In this case, the numbers are 189 by 245. That means that image is 189 pixels by 245 pixels. That will help you get an idea about what image sizes are like and how they look on websites. You go around different websites and say, oh, I wonder how big that image is. I can find out. Okay, so image sizes, page sizes. Everything on our screens are just screen displays, including your television screens for that matter, but certainly our computer screens, is made of pixels. A pixel is the smallest visual unit of a display, digital display. It's like a little tiny point of light. We're in CSS3, which is where we're kind of at. It tries to standardize pixels to 72 pixels per inch, which is the format that we will be using. But frankly, different displays can vary a lot. Still, when we size photographs, we will size them to 72 pixels per inch. Yet we will measure the photographs for the web in pixels. Well, how big should they be? Well, how big is your screen? JOU317WB, the World Wide Web Consortium, screen standards, which are a little old now, essentially says if you don't make your website bigger than 1024 pixels, that's the width, and deeper than 768 pixels, then it's going to fit on the average display. Or, yeah, it'll fit. Some of them will be much bigger than that. In fact, displays have gotten much bigger. 1024 is a conservative number for width, and it's really width we're concerned about here. But you can see this. You should know the screen standard, 1024 by 768, right? But what we're really concerned about is width, because pages, of course, scroll and get deeper and deeper, and that's okay. In fact, more and more pages are scrolling pages with the use of handheld devices or phones and tablets and so on, which are very scroll-oriented. Anyway, so if my average page is my average monitor is 1024 by 768, and 1024 is the width, then we are going to think about what are the things we have on our browser. We have scroll bars, we have other devices, we want to have room for margins and things, menus and stuff like that. We generally say we work with the true size of our website of 980, 960, just a little less than 1,000. A little less than 1,000. And when we want to talk about the fold, like above the fold, and that means that's an old-fashioned idea. It's an old-fashioned newspaper idea. It's still used in websites, though. The fold on a website is this line right here. It's the stuff that's above the fold is the stuff that's displayed when the page first comes up, and which is an important area. Later we scroll and we find stuff that's further down. Let's go to the SUNY Plattsburgh website, for instance. Here's the website. This area here is probably about 1,000 pixels, 980, something in that range here, right? This area that's the whole width, and there's been margins have been built in, so even a very small monitor would fit the website pretty well. But where is the fold? It's right down here. So it's been determined that all this stuff here is important for someone to see first, and there's more information. We can scroll down and see it, but it's less important and less down here. And then there's actually not a whole lot of website left there. Okay, so that's the idea. And so we think about 980, 960, or just use 1,000 in your head if you want. That would mean if I had a 500 pixel wide photo, it would take up about half of my browser, or a little more. So I had a really big photo, maybe it'd be 900. And a smaller photo might be 200, 300, 400. And 500, 600, 700 would be pretty big photos. So keep those numbers in mind when you size photographs. Okay, that's the end of what we need to know for the basics of images.